Hello and welcome to SuperConnectivity. I am your host, Charlie Esser, and with me as always is...
Phil Parrish.
Hey Phil, great to have you back once again as we talk about something. I don't know yet. Actually, we want to give feedback. I'm sorry?
What's that?
What?
I was going to say, do you want to go to the listener feedback we got?
Yes. I was going to give a big shout out to one of our happy fans who posted on our Facebook page. What did they say? And who are they, Phil?
This is from Nuno Santos, and this is international because he starts, "Hi from Portugal. To me, what happened to Doom was just a new version of his story in the original Secret Wars. This time, you have this new universe created as the image of Doom, and the antagonists will be the Cabal and the heroes who were in the rafts, so they were outside the recreation of the new universe."
Very interesting, Santos. Good idea. Well, I think there could be something to what Santos has to say, especially in the idea that this is sort of a retread of what we saw in the first Secret Wars. Now, in that story, of course, Doom does gain the Beyonder's power, and as a godlike being, he now is creating this conflict. Now, I'm not sure exactly how the conflict between the various antagonists we've seen is going to go down. As we said, it's interesting to have the Cabal here because now the Cabal is, we know, the first beings who know this is not correct, who know from whence this universe was formed. In Ultimate End, we saw the heroes from the 616 and the 1610 interacting and with seeming to have some knowledge of the 616 and the 1610 from prior to the formation of Battleworld, but they did not seem to have knowledge of the incursions or what led to this, because they seemed to be of the opinion that it was something that Tony Stark had done that caused the creation of Battleworld. Now, I am actually getting more and more into my idea myself that the Doom we're seeing is, in fact, Reed Richards. And what really struck me on this was, as we were, because I went back and reread Secret Wars 1, and it strikes me that as Reed is giving his closing narration, as he's talking about how, he still that he believes or he hopes in nothing. And then you see the Mask of Doom. And to me, it could be that what they were telegraphing there is that as everything that Reed had worked to save dies, he becomes Doom. He puts on Doom's mask. And here's the idea, okay? Because when we last saw Doom, I believe that was that Avengers or New Avengers? He goes to battle...
New Avengers, I think.
New Avengers. He goes to battle the Beyonders. He tells Strange just before that, isn't it better to save something if we can't save everything? And here's my thought. When everything ends... Now, and of course, when Doom is battling the Beyonders, much like when Thor and Hyperion are battling the Beyonders, they get that moment of, yes, we can defeat them, and then, oh, no, we can't. And they get away. And you get that look on Doom's face in that, and, that's how that ends. So here's my idea. What if Doom did set up to build Battleworld? Set up his machine that it's going to create Battleworld. It's going to pull everything into existence. And then, after the collapse of the universe, or before Doom gets to put himself in there, he gets destroyed by the Beyonders. And Reed Richards, after everything has ended, he's the one who comes to Doom's Battleworld and sees what Doom was creating and just takes over for Doom.
Because he can't fix it.
Yeah, he can't fix it. So all he can do now is not lose. And so he goes to that, and he places himself as Doom because this world was engineered for the mythos of Doom, for the mythos of Rabamala Balm. And if you want evidence of this, that's really Reed Richards, consider this. When Doom was a god as Reba Malal, or whatever it was, he was still wearing his traditional green tunic.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's in the white tunic. Now he's in the Colors of the Future Foundation, with the Future Foundation heroes at his side.
Superior Reed Richards.
It's Superior Reed Richards, exactly. It is the Doom Reed Matrix, and Reed has embraced Doom, and become Doom. You know, he become Doom, or something like that. And I mean, I'm thinking I could be completely wrong. I probably am. I usually am wrong when I start to get out on these limbs, but I'm not. I'm not like Phil Parrish, where I see something, I get that hint, and I follow it through, and I'm right on target. I go completely off the rails, but I think that's one of the things the fans like about me.
Come on, you're part of the Enough Said universe. Say, mark my words.
Mark my words. Mark my words. That is Reed Richards behind that mask. And I will say, I am convinced that is Reed Richards behind the mask. Now, exactly how Reed got behind the mask, I'm not 100% sure yet. Like I say, it's entirely possible that this is just something where Reed was. It could be that Reed was pulled into this universe as much as everyone else, and is as much
a victim, you want to say?
Yeah, a victim of it as everyone else. You know, for example, here's an interesting idea. What if, when Doom was pulling together his universe, he had planned to put Reed in that spot and then going to do the old brain swap with him, but then Doom died before he could do that, leaving Reed in the Doom seat, and with the history that he had created for that Doom character, but it's Reed inside. I mean, you know, anything's possible. Now, what's interesting is going to be how much each other universe character knows. Because as I was saying, you know, when we're reading these, because this is the great thing about being an intense nerd in the age of the internet, is we're getting these solicits for August and the future. And one thing we know is there's going to be the Guardians of Knowhere. And it makes this point that Knowhere is still orbiting Battleworld. Now, is that the Knowhere? Is Knowhere separate from what came after? Did the head of the Celestial protect Knowhere so it didn't get pulled into the recreation of the universe? So that Knowhere actually knows that the denizens of Knowhere, the Guardians of the Galaxy in Knowhere, actually know what happened. They actually know the 616 collapsed, and they actually know where they are. And, you know, that's a possibility, because all that was supposed to be left was Battleworld, but here is Knowhere still there. So why is Knowhere there unless Knowhere is separate? Which, as the head of a Celestial, maybe it is protected. Maybe it was protected when everything collapsed, because the Celestials do exist on multiple planes of existence simultaneously, much like how
Galactus' body survived.
Several Galactus' bodies survived. Yes, you know. That's the thing, is what if you were in Knowhere, you somehow escaped everything and escaped the vortex of doom that created the universe, or the Battleworld. And here's an interesting question about Battleworld: is it orbiting a sun?
They said there were no stars.
Yeah, exactly. That was something I was thinking. But there's clearly day and night on Battleworld. Although I do wonder at times if maybe some parts of Battleworld are in perpetual darkness and some parts are in perpetual day. Because I don't think we've ever seen a world where no, Arcadia, we see it at night and then we see it in the daytime. So that's one place that we know has day and night. But it seems like every other part of Battleworld we've seen, it's either always day or it's always night that we've seen so far.
Unless it's some kind of artificial light.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Maybe it is. Maybe and like what I'm saying, maybe there are parts of each world that have all day or all night. And it's not tied to a star. It's tied to something other, you know? Mm-hmm. Battleworld is an interesting place. It is very disjointed and broken. Although, you know, we are being faced with this question with Battleworld, which is it going to get redundant? You know, when Secret Wars first came out, it was just one book. And yes, and interestingly enough, tying into it, just like in Secret Wars, when Secret Wars came out, the rest of the Marvel Universe jumped 8 months ahead.
How long they were going.
Yeah. So Secret Wars starts, and then Spider-Man's in the black costume.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and they didn't explain the black costume until it happened on Secret Wars. So it's an interesting thing, and that we're doing these time jumps again, because that's the other thing we learned today, or not today, but we actually learned that this week, is that when Secret Wars ends, it's going to jump 8 months ahead into the future again, so that the transition from Secret Wars to the all new, all different Marvel universe is not going to be direct and clear. And that is interesting, because again, something is going to be changing here. Something is going to be, we're not going to be given a direct transition of what happens after Secret Wars. Secret Wars is going to end, and then we're going to be dumped into the middle of an all new, all different Marvel universe. And all the characters are going to know what happened, but we won't. So it's going to be another mystery to solve. Another thing we saw in the solicits, because one of the books I am going to be picking up is Squadron Sinister. And that is where the new universe and power line are showing up. Because as Utopolis, which is the Squadron Sinister universe, is expanding its empire, its borders, with all these other Squadron Supreme worlds that are sort of, so basically it's just it's a series of Utopolises all put together, and they're going into each universe, each land, destroying the Squadron Supreme or Squadron Sinister there, and creating sort of a Duke in charge of each one, from what we've read from the previews. But they're going to face Dr. Zero there. And I don't think Dr. Zero is going to go down easily. I was actually surprised to see how quickly they put down like their other, the good guy Squadron Supremes, the Hyperion in that storyline, when evil Hyperion down good guy Hyperion from the more recent Squadron Supreme line. It was like, well, that was fast, but I guess, diamond cutting a diamond, and evil Hyperion is ruthless, so that's why he does it. That's why he just totally slaughters the other Squadron Supreme. But they're going to run into Dr. Zero from the Powerline Saga, who is sort of a Superman-esque character, who is a little bit corrupt, but also maybe a little bit of a hero. So it kind of fits into that Squadron Sinister mold. And you're also going to have the new universe characters facing off against Squadron Supreme, which, quite frankly, sounds very mismatched. So we're going to have to see how the new universe characters hold up. Except, of course, you'll have Starbrand, and Starbrand is insanely powerful. So that's going to be interesting. 1872 is another book that I'm very interested in, and that's the Cowboy Marvel Universe. That's the one book that I don't think is going to have a lot to do with, or a lot of potential to do with, the overall storyline, but I still just want to read it just because it's actually a very new storyline that they have never explored. And at first I thought it would be interesting if it was going to be the cowboy books of Marvel, but it's not. It's Marvel reimagined as a cowboy book. So that could be interesting. Is there anything particularly coming up in the Battleworlds or Secret Wars that you're interested in, Phil?
Well, I ordered the Squadron Sinister book. I don't even know half the stuff that you said is going to happen in it, so that looks interesting.
Yeah.
But I want to see, I'm waiting for Amazing Spider-Man Renew Your Vows.
Oh, yeah.
Because it looks like the normal 616 universe, except they're still married.
Did you pick up no, I guess you didn't pick up the Spider-Verse crossover.
No.
Yeah, me neither.
It's like we just had it.
Yeah, I know. Well, yeah, but it's on Battleworld.
I know, but it's
well, because for me, I obsessively read the preview, and that's what you have to do when you're trying to decide what are you going to spend your money on. And on the previews for it, it was actually in Comic Book Resources. The guy said, "Look, it's a really great book, and if you are a major Spider fan, you're going to love it. If you're not the biggest Spider-Man guy, it might be a little light for you." And it was a $4.99 book, and I said, I'm not really the biggest Spider-Man guy, I'm like the one guy Marvel who's not a big Spider-Man guy. I like it now because I've liked it since the Superior run, but I really had never read it before Superior. I mean, I picked up a couple Peter Parker Spectacular Spider-Mans back in the day, but it's never been on my pull list. It's never been one that I read every week. It wasn't until Superior Spider-Man that I read it, and I fell in love with the spirit. I love Otto, like Maria Marconi. I love Otto, man. And that was a great book, and I'm continuing on reading it in many reasons because of all the ancillary characters from the Superior run that are still there. So I skipped that one, even though it has a Spider-Ham story, and I love Spider-Ham because I love those cartoon books. But yeah,
I'm a big Spider-Man fan. I've been collecting since 1988, and I think the 3 books in Battleworld Spider-Man are Renew Your Vows and Spider-Verse and Spider Island, and honestly, Renew Your Vows is the only one that really caught my interest.
Yeah, well, maybe we're getting a little burnt out on Spider-Man. I don't know. Although I actually am kind of interested in it, since you mentioned Spider Island. I'm interested in Spider Island because it has Flash Thompson as Agent Venom, and that's sort of my thing. Is I actually am a Spider fan through these backdoor characters. I loved Flash Thompson as Agent Venom. Agent Venom as this guy who is really broken, which Flash Thompson is, got his legs blown off in Afghanistan, and, has this history of alcoholism, has this issue of anger issues, of bullying, and, that whole redemptive arc of Flash Thompson to become Agent Venom, that's pretty cool to me. So in that, I'm interested in Spider Island. Renew Your Vows, I am a little interested in it because it does have Mayday in it, and it has that tie to the MC2 universe, but it is not Mayday. It's sort of baby Spider-Man. So it's baby Mayday. So, I don't know if that is as interesting to me as if it was an MC2 universe. If it was MC2 Spider-Woman on Battleworld, because to me that is really one of the things that is really lacking is an MC2 universe corollary, and I'm sure they'll show up somewhere, but I'm a little disappointed that they don't have that they didn't get their own book when they were dividing things up. And May's not even in A-Force, so it's it's a little disappointing.
Unless they're going to bring back the MC2 after Secret Wars, and this book is kind of the beginning of that.
That's a possibility. That's certainly a possibility. As we say with Secret Wars, everything's a possibility,
Yeah.
And that's what they're selling us on is I think is the, what's frustrating about Secret Wars is that because it is this big, expansive storyline with all these different books and all these different moving parts, we know some stuff is going to, basically, law of averages says some of this stuff is not going to be worth the read. Anytime you have a big event, there's always some books that, they weren't worth the read and they weren't important to the story. And it's real hard to know what's going to be important to the story. Like I said, Planet Hulk doesn't strike me as going to be important to the story. Weird World, Where Monsters Dwell, although Where Monsters Dwell kind of strikes me as an interesting story, but I don't feel like it's going to be important to the story. I don't think, I don't think it's going to be important to the story. And that's actually kind of even the hard part in this is Renew Your Vows sounds like a very interesting book. I don't know if it's going to be important to the story of Battleworld. And when I'm trying, and if I was just a guy who was just reading for fun and I wasn't that concerned about Secret Wars, I probably would read Renew Your Vows. But because I have to make my choices on, okay, what is going to tell me the story? And this is just how I read comic books. I'm always looking for what is the greater story? What is the cosmic connection between all these books? And so some books are going to get left behind. Truth be told, right now I'm saying I'm going to read 1872. If 1872 comes out in a week when I've got, 5 other books, it's probably not going to get a pickup because, I don't think it's going to be central to the story. It sounds like such an interesting story that I don't think they felt they had to tie it in. But, sometimes that's going to work against you in this.
You're flooding the market, Marvel.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. But, that's also, I'm sure that's entirely by design,
Oh, yeah.
And part of what they want to do is they want to see what people are interested in. Mm-hmm. They want to see, and DC's doing the same thing with Convergence. And, for what it's worth, I did pick up one Convergence book, which was the Supergirl Matrix Convergence book. And I'm looking at it, it's like, so this is just Battleworld. This is just all these different universes all crammed together. Exactly like Battleworld.
Yep.
And actually, from what I can tell, it's also Secret Wars. You guys fight and stuff, which, for what it's worth, isn't part of Battleworld. There is no, defeat your enemies and only desire will be yours. It's Battleworld exists, and it's all these things. And so, I mean, that to that extent, that is the difference here between Convergence and Secret Wars. It's always interesting when Marvel and DC do have these events that do seem to sort of, if not copy each other, seem to rhyme. We do find the differences between them. And, in here, Convergence seems much more like the traditional Secret Wars, where it is about battles and bringing of people together. Whereas Secret Wars, the new and they called it the same thing as the previously existing storyline. So calling it Secret Wars is very difficult. But let's call it Battleworld. But Battleworld is not about. Interestingly enough, Battleworld isn't actually about battle. It is about people sort of maintaining their lives. It does seem, from everything I've read on the subject, it does seem that what we're going to get to is that Battleworld is going to unravel. That there was an inherent flaw in the creation of Battleworld that it can't sustain. It can't sustain itself. And if we go back to the Beyonders, as I said, it was kind of like my feeling, and we don't know this yet, but it was kind of like my feeling that what the Beyonders wanted in all this was to find a way to go back to being all there was before Owen Reese opened the window to them. And they suddenly fractured into the many Beyonders from the one from beyond. Because as soon as they enter into the multiverse, they become multiplied. Because then there's a Beyonder in every single universe. And each one is going to react differently and live differently and experience things differently, even if they're all aware of each other. And they want to go back to that. But I think once they've entered into this universe, you can't get the toothpaste back into the tube. And that's the problem with the Beyonders. And I think what we're going to see in this is that the universe wants to be reborn as multiple universes. Although, as they're saying, Battleworld will still continue to exist in the 616. So whatever happens at the end of this, whatever happens with the heroes returning to Earth, Battleworld's going to stay right where it is. It's going to be probably in that synchronous orbit at the other side of the sun at all times. Sort of like. I was going
to say, is it going to be the new Counter Earth?
And 6 other different. There are so many planets there.
On the other side of the sun.
Yeah, it's getting pretty crowded on that other side of the sun. That's all I'm saying. And again, physics doesn't actually work that way.
No.
Yeah, one of these things. Because you don't actually revolve around the sun. You actually revolve around a point between the two bodies. That both bodies revolve around a point in between the two bodies that is equivalent to their masses. So, for example, the point that Jupiter and the Sun orbit around is different than the point that the Sun orbit around. Jupiter and the Sun orbit at a part that's actually just outside of the Sun, whereas Earth's orbit is actually around a point that's inside the Sun, which is why orbits are elliptical, because the actual focal point of the orbit is not at the center of the Sun. It's actually further away. So actually the orbit probably is circular, but it seems elliptical as it moves around the object. Because it's actually not moving around the object, it's moving around separate from the center of the object. So
pay attention, kids. There'll be a test later.
Yes, science, kids. You'll love it. Trust me. Science. So anyway, so that is that. But of course, we all also know that science isn't the same in the Marvel Universe, and intentionally so. Because it is a magical form of science. And if you are in a universe where the laws of physics operate on things like belief and observation and things of that nature, it alters what science is. There was a great line in Loki this week when Verity Wells is talking to the new version of Loki, and she says, "Are you dead?" And he says, "I don't know. Is Schrodinger's cat?" Because it's that existing in multiple stories. And this was actually this interesting point that Loki makes in this, which is that many stories end, but even when a story ends, you then have the story about what happens after the story. And so all things ended, but there's still going to be a story to tell, and there's still going to be infinite number of more stories to be told. And I think what happens, the Beyonders want to go back to one existence, and they can never go back, because as soon as you exist in a world with multiplicity, things fracture. The stories break down. You have to have Rashomon. You have to have perspective, and each perspective is going to be different. And because each perspective is going to be different, each story is going to be different. And the stories are going to grow out of that. So as you approach different stories and different ways of telling stories, the laws of physics in these universes change, because the laws of physics in these universes aren't hard Newtonian, what the mad thinker thinks of as the universe. It is this, then this, then this, and we can quantify it and know it, and it can be one thing. No, it is this quantum world where if it is not observed, it may not even be existing, or it exists, but only when we can observe it. And when it is not being observed, what is it? What is its state? We cannot know. It is a tree that fell in the woods when no one heard it. It fell, and Newton says it would make a sound, but no one observed the sound's creation. So what is a sound that is not heard? What is an interaction that is not viewed? That is not, when the interaction when waves pass through each other, what does that mean? It gets a bit esoteric, and that's the problem for the Beyonders, is they don't want to be in that universe anymore. But you can't unsee what you've seen. Sorry, Beyonders.
Although I'm happy full Reed Richards is on the throne.
No, yes. Although all I want, maybe that's why Dazzler can fly, because maybe the Beyonder wanted her to be able to fly. Because I want those two crazy kids to make it. I tell you, there's so much love in the Marvel universe. Deadpool and Death, the Beyonder and Dazzler, and it would make me very happy to see to see the Beyonder and Dazzler sort of find some happiness.
Yeah, are we gonna see Frank from Bam?
Yeah, we might. I hope so. I really hope. I mean that is my biggest wish, is that somehow the Beyonder gets into this somehow. That the Beyonder, the real Beyonder, the first Beyonder. There was an interesting point made by a guy on YouTube about the final episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. This year, which was that the device, the Kree device, is only active in the presence of Inhumans, and that suggests that Simmons might be an Inhuman. I haven't rewatched the whole 2 hours yet to see if that's actually the case, but we'll have to see. I'm actually thinking that's not exactly the case, because I think some shield guards were standing by. It was active, but then again, maybe some of those shield guards were Inhumans. But I'm not entirely certain if that was the case or not. So I'm gonna have to double check that. But anyway, so possible more Inhuman shenanigans next season on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And Agent Carter's coming back. So all around. And I'm hoping we get more superheroes on Agent Carter, because one thing that Flash has taught us, and I think Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has embraced us, is that people want superheroes in these stories, You can't just be a maudlin guy who shoots arrows. You got to have superheroes. That's what we want. And speaking of maudlin guys who shoot arrows, you can listen to me and Phil talk about episode number 5 coming soon on the what podcast is that?
Power Hour. Flash Arrow Power Hour.
Flash Arrow Power Hour. So Phil and I will be talking about Green Arrow. I had not seen the new Green Arrow TV series until Phil asked me to participate in this, and I probably have different views than a lot of people. So
coming
tune
this
in
summer.
out this
Probably
summer.
July.
In July. Watch for it. And And I think we've made all the connections we're going to make tonight, Phil. And it's been a pleasure talking to you as always.
You too. You taught us much about physics and science.
Yes. Well, it's one of my one of my many passions, and it's always, I'm not a guy who likes to say science doesn't work that way on comic books. But sometimes I have to when they try to insist that they're being science, and I'm like, no, not being science. You're being magic, and just embrace that. Because the fact of the matter is, you can't say that physics would prevent something from existing in a comic book universe. You can only say that the physics in that comic book universe allows something like that to exist. So to me, it's very important to understand that distinction, So you can say evolution doesn't work that way when you say Wyndham Price evolves and devolves creatures, but actually, no, that is how evolution works in that universe. It is not a randomized natural selection. It is actually a progression to a point and a regression to another point. That there is a line, there is a spectrum, and you are moving along it towards some goal, whatever that might be. But that's what makes comic books fun. And if you would like to talk to us about this, you can comment at our Facebook page. Look for SuperConnectivity on your Facebook. If you do, like our friend Santos, we'll talk about what you said. And we will give you a shout out. So please do that and let us know your interesting thoughts on what is going on in the Marvel Universe, of all the Marvel Universes, whether it's the TV shows, the cartoons, the comic books. We talk about it all because it all connects on SuperConnectivity. And you can write to us. You can write to me at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com and follow me at Twitter. And Phil, how can they reach you?
You can email me, nightwingpdp@gmail.com, and on Twitter, I'm at nightwingpdp.
And this has been SuperConnectivity. Connect with us again next week.